Hey everyone, this is Philip, and this is the best of the week for the Everyday Fighter podcast.
For our egos, there's probably nothing better than to get squashed, get beat by these people, because and I think, quite truthfully, that's probably helped with my own crap and my own stuff too, is just getting that ego squashed and coming back and doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And now, I mean, that's really where confidence is developed, I think, in a human being overall. Being unsuccessful but determining that you're going to keep persevering through whatever the struggle is. And like I said, I have never come across something that is so analogous to that, like jiu-jitsu.
How long did it take you to get that point, though? Because I mean, God, I know there are times, and I don't roll much. We do a bit of grapple, mostly clinch work, but I definitely know the feeling of getting my ass beat in one way or another.
Yep.
And I couldn't even put my finger on when I kind of, got over the hump. But you talk about that, you mentioned it a few times now. It was just, the success comes when you show up.
Yes.
Right? Do you remember a time when, or was there a moment when you're like, okay, this is the grind? You just kind of surrendered to it. And then now you have this realization that you can go to.
Yeah. So, the Gracie combatives, all of the different programs in jiu-jitsu have their good parts and bad parts, things that you change. I think one of the things that Gracie's do so well is they really simplify a lot of it. And then our particular gym, they really don't want you rolling an open mat. I think it's maybe about 6 to 8 months is what they say. It just as not a rule, but generally speaking. I think that, to answer your question, it was when I walked through the door on a Saturday morning, because we have open mat Saturday morning from roughly 10 to 11:30. And so the first time I ever walked into that, I was going, oh geez, I never wrestled or anything. So I didn't know. And they kind of, so there's two groups. There's there's combatives, and then there's, oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking out on it. But then there's there's the higher group, which is blue belts and up, master cycle. That's what it is. And so they were giving me a hard time about it one night. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be there tomorrow. And I was just kind of, talking out of my ass. And
because these were the more advanced folks that would show up for the mat. Okay.
These are the guys that they would destroy everybody. And it was also, but I didn't really have a relationship really with too many of them, but they were we were out somewhere and they were giving me a hard time. Like, you're going to be there tomorrow? Yep, I'm going to be there tomorrow. Like the whole time going, oh great, I'm going to get destroyed. And so, but I went that next morning, and I went afraid, and I walked in and got my ass just handed to me for an hour and a half to 2 hours straight, and left there like I had just conquered Mount Everett or something. It was just such a tangible high for me. And I remember going home absolutely drenched in sweat and hurting. And my wife was like, how was it? And I was like, I got my ass kicked for 2 hours. It was awesome.
It's awesome.
And the next day, I woke up with bruises all over my arms and my legs, and I was just a mess. But and then after that, it was every Saturday, and unless we were out of town or something. But I've missed maybe a handful of times since that time. And somebody said to me one time, Saturday morning is like Christmas morning. Every Saturday is. And I remember going, come on, it's not, I don't know, it's not that extreme. But I know exactly what he's talking about now, because it is. There's a level of excitement. There's a little bit of an anxiety. But, we go in and, you chit chat and you stretch, and then it's on. And you put your mouthpiece in and clinch down on it, and, human chess. Here we go.
Now, after you go through that progression, the next one would be actual sparring, right? So kind of take this technique that you've been learning all through these previous steps and apply it in a much more dynamic environment, and that is sparring, right? Now, here's the thing though, it's usually a challenge for people to make that last transition from, okay, I can hit mitts, but actually hitting somebody else, like aiming for their face, emotionally, psychologically, that's a challenge in and of itself. It's also a challenge actually getting that technique performed upon you. So not only do you have to think about, okay, let me throw my jab cross at this person's head, oh my gosh, they're throwing back at me too. So it's almost exponential in terms of the difference as far as the progressions go. So if you think of like kind of like a hockey stick of difficulty, that transition from kind of moving from mitts to live sparring is a really big challenge for a lot of people. And one of the reasons for that is because they're still focused on just doing the technique itself. So what I'll typically see is that they're moving around, right? They're kind of, the people that are sparring, they're moving around in relation to each other, but then there's a lot of start and stops where, okay, take a couple steps, throw the technique. Take a couple steps, throw the technique. And, they're trying to apply all the things that they've learned in those same kind of static modalities to this other environment. And they're just focused solely on the technique. And that's the challenge, really, is that they're thinking too much about performing the techniques. What helped me in making that transition was that I realized that focusing solely on the techniques wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. And I had to actually look at what the whole point of all of this was in the first place. I wasn't in class to learn the technique itself. I was in class to learn how to be safe, to learn how to fight, to learn how to move my body in a way that would be useful if I had to defend myself. Okay? So once I got that, it made things much, much easier. I focused less on the technique and focused more so on safety and movement, right? Being good at that. And once I got that down, that particular technique that we're learning is just now inserted in as a kind of a secondary goal, or that particular goal helps me get to my overall goal, which is safety and self-defense and movement.